All right, we're going to start in just a second here. Bear with me. I'm going live on YouTube as well. If you guys want me to talk about anything specific tonight, drop it in the chat. I will definitely respond to those. Any takes or opinions you have, hit me up in the chat, either on Colorcast right now or on YouTube Live. Please do so. That would be awesome. If you want me to talk about anything sports related or anything I talk about, hit me up in the chat, and I will get to it as we move along here. Give me one more minute, and we will get going. Thank you for the likes. Very, very kind of you. I haven't even done anything yet. So generous. You just know I want to provide good content. That's what this is about. We will start at 7:32 because we're the Too Tall Sports Podcast people. There we go. All right. What is up? This is Too Tall Sports with Brett Lauren. I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome in on Colorcast, the app. If you don't have it, please download it and get on there and find my show, Too Tall Sports. I'm also on YouTube Live right now as well. So anybody that wants to join on YouTube Live, feel free to do so if you want to see me. But otherwise, yeah, we're broadcasting on Colorcast. So let me run down the show for you. I will lead with Steph Curry. As I'm sure some of you know, he broke the all-time three-point record tonight. I watched it live, so that was pretty awesome. I will get to Steph. I'm also going to do a lot of NFL recap as well, mostly NFL after this. I can even hit my fantasy disappointment over the weekend. We can talk about that. Not that anyone cares about anyone's fantasy team, but this is a tough last couple of weeks in one of my fantasy leagues, so I will talk about that. Also, Tiger Woods is coming back this week in competitive golf, so we can talk about that as well. So, but let me start with Steph Curry. And by the way, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. I'm on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. I do a podcast episode every Thursday morning. I drop it. This week, I have a huge one with Rob Parker, Fox Sports Radio host Rob Parker. You guys probably know who that is if you follow sports media. So huge interview for me on Thursday. They'll be dropping. Just FYI. So just look for Too Tall Sports Podcast. Okay, let me start the show. You know, when it comes to shooting, there's really only one guy in this era that comes to mind that really has transcended the game of basketball when it comes to three-point shooting, and it's Steph Curry. And there have been a lot of great shooters over the years, most notably guys like Reggie Miller, who was on the call tonight, and also Ray Allen was in Madison Square Garden as well. And Steph passed Ray Allen tonight for the most three-pointers in history of the league, which was 2,974. It's a pretty remarkable record. And let me give you some numbers here along with that, just to show you how ridiculous it is. So Steph has, like I mentioned, got the record 2,974 threes. It took Steph 789 games to get there. It took Ray Allen 1,300 games to get to that number. So you can imagine when Steph gets to 1,300 games, how many threes he'll have. He'll probably have over 4,000, maybe even 5,000 threes if this continues. Really impressive by Steph. You know, under 800 games to get this record. Now, a lot of people will say, well, they're taking a lot more threes, which they are nowadays, right? So Steph averages 8.7 three-point attempts per game. Ray Allen averaged 5.7 attempts. So 3 more threes averaged a game for Steph. Close in three-point percentage, Ray was a 40% career three-point shooter. Steph was a 43% three-point shooter for his career and counting. Here's the big difference, though. Ray Allen only had one season with 250 three-pointers made or more. Only one time Ray Allen did that. Steph has 7 seasons and counting where he made 250 threes or more. That's the difference. It's an onslaught, a barrage of threes, if you will. Steph is ungodly good at shooting a basketball. So what he's been doing is extremely impressive. He even has Klay Thompson on his team. You could argue the second or third greatest shooter of all time. But the difference to me with Steph is this. Klay Thompson once scored like 40 points on 4 dribbles or something like that, meaning he really didn't have to create his own shot other than moving without the ball. But what Steph does is both. Steph will move without the ball. If you watch the Warriors, he will move without the ball like everybody else, but he can also shoot threes off the dribble, which a lot of guards in historical NBA can't do. Now, there is a new era of Luka Doncic, James Harden, Trae Young, Kyrie Irving. There are a lot of guys that can do that now. But at the clip that Steph is doing it at, we haven't seen that before. He's arguably the most dangerous player in the NBA outside of Kevin Durant, probably. But you could argue from anywhere inside a half court, him and Damian Lillard are the best two when it comes to that. So that to me is what separates Steph and makes him not only the greatest three-point shooter of all time, just the greatest shooter of all time in general. He is doing things that other notoriously good spot-up shooters aren't doing. And that's off the dribble and moving without the ball. I give it to Steph. I don't think we've seen anything like it before. It's not all on numbers. It's just the way he can kill your team with the way he shoots the ball. And teams are game planning for him every single night. And he's still making it happen. It's really impressive. It was cool to see him knock the record down in Madison Square Garden. You know, he had a couple chances to do it in between. He had, Indiana last night, and he didn't get it. It's ridiculous, and it's cool to see him do it at what they call the Mecca of basketball in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Spike Lee was there, a bunch of guys there. So, and my guy J Mike says currently the best player in the world. You could argue that. You definitely could argue that. I still lean toward Kevin Durant just in a pure scoring aspect plus a little more defense. But I'm with you. I do like Steph as one of the best players in the world for sure. There's no question about that. So if you guys have any thoughts on Steph, feel free to drop them in the chat. I will definitely answer those. But yeah, really impressive. We've never seen anything like this before from anybody. So it seems like Steph also, not that it matters if you're a good guy or not, it doesn't. But it's nice to root for somebody that was not highly recruited, went to freaking Davidson for college, okay? Got passed up in the draft. T-Wolves fans know about that. It just to see somebody at that size take over the league for the last 10 years is very impressive. Dodgers 11 says Giannis isn't in that discussion. He totally is. Giannis is definitely in that discussion. That's why I put KD, Giannis, and Steph. And by the way, I believe they're top 3 in scoring, those 3 guys in no particular order. Giannis is definitely in the discussion. You could definitely argue that. But Giannis is also 6'11" or something like that. This is a 6'3" Steph Curry who's like 170 pounds soaking wet, completely changing the league. He's a transcendent player. So kudos to Steph. His dad was there. His mom was there, even though they're not together anymore, and that's for another day. But really cool to see the record happen at Madison Square Garden. The fans were cheering for it. It's just cool. So, yes, Giannis is in the discussion. Let's move on now. I want to get to some NFL. The Chiefs are clearly back, okay? They crushed the Raiders again. They've put up like 80 points on them in the last 2 games. I know it's just the Raiders, but you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back. He scored a touchdown. You got Josh Gordon, of all people. How many suspensions for marijuana has he come back from? He scored a touchdown this past weekend. The other funny thing to add insult to injury, apparently the Raiders taunted the Chiefs in Arrowhead on their logo before the game. And that, if they needed any more motivation, probably a pretty stupid thing you could do if you're the Raiders. The wheels have come off the track there. I know they had the big Thanksgiving win against the Cowboys, but the Raiders are going downhill fast. They're stuck in the mud like they always are, middle of the road team. So say bye to the Raiders. They definitely need a new coach that's going to change the culture. They may need to move on from Derek Carr, even though he's an above average quarterback. they just don't have the talent. They draft horribly, as we've talked about in the past. Their entire 2020 draft, top 5 picks are gone. So the Raiders are done. But the Chiefs are clearly back. And it looks like a pretty easy path for them moving forward. Now, they're going to have a little bit of difficulty with the Chargers. However, the Chiefs have they're 9-4. The Chargers are 8-5. Let's see who the Chiefs have coming up here. They got the Chargers on Thursday night, which is a big game. We'll see if Keenan Allen plays, who's been in COVID protocols. Then the Chiefs have the Steelers, Bengals, and Broncos. Not easy games by any means. All these teams are over 500 right now, so the Chiefs don't have an easy schedule. The Chargers, on the other hand, they got a different look at it. Let me look at the Chargers schedule real quick. Chargers are going to play, like I mentioned, Chiefs on Thursday night. Then they got the Texans, Broncos, and Raiders. All winnable games after Thursday night. So I could see the Chargers going 11-6, really, if they put it together. Even if they lose Thursday night. So definitely a winnable situation there for the Chargers to get close to the Chiefs. We'll see. It's going to come down to the wire there. So yeah, I have plenty of thoughts on that. If you guys have any thoughts, feel free to drop them in the chat. I have Grandizer 12. Thank you. Happy holidays from you as well, from the Bird Gang YouTube family. Thank you guys, all you Eagle fans out there. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to write you a little quick note here. Thank you very much. Any comments you guys have, drop them in the chat on any of these topics. We lost a legend this past weekend at Demaryius Thomas. I'm sure some of you guys have seen his passing over the weekend. Pretty unfortunate, but he was a great receiver, man. He was an amazing player for a few years. He had a great run with Peyton Manning during that 2013 MVP year where Peyton threw 55 touchdowns. And Demaryius is a big part of that. When you see somebody, pass away at 33, especially – it seems like a guy that was really well liked. It's hard to watch, and you just kind of remember, like, damn, it's life is short, and you just never know when these things are going to happen. He was battling, I believe, he had a medical condition from a car accident that he was in. Just a tough situation for those guys in Denver, but big win for them, kind of doing it for him. I know they played the Lions, but that was kind of a nice win for the Broncos on a weekend that was kind of a somber weekend for them. So. Yeah. J. Mike says, I saw a stat around 122 starts Derek Carr has had. Only one time his defense allowed 7 points or less. That is a good point. Yes. If those numbers are correct, I would agree. It hasn't been great for the Raiders on defense, especially when you trade Khalil Mack away, arguably one of the best defensive players in the league, or he was for a while. Yeah, the front office is just a mess. There's just some organizations that cannot get out of their own way, and the Raiders are one of those organizations. You can move the team to Vegas. You can move them to freaking India. That organization is bad. They're just bad. They can't figure it out. So I don't know if it's leadership up top with Mark Davis. I don't care who it is. They gotta make some wholesale changes there because it just doesn't. Nothing changes. So they definitely need some new direction, whether it's by quarterback or coach, which they'll get a coach, but doesn't look good over there in Vegas so far. Speaking of teams that usually can't get it together, how about the Dallas Cowboys? They started in dominant fashion on defense. They had a huge defensive touchdown, and then Taylor Heineke got hurt. They played the Washington football team, of course. Their defense showed up huge. Micah Parsons is probably going to be the defensive player of the year and possibly defensive rookie of the year as well. Really impressive start by Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State. He looks great. The offense with Dak looks a little bit inconsistent, as it always does, and Dak is heavily reliant on the run game. And when Ezekiel Elliott is the best running back in the league, Dak can go 13-3. But when Zeke Elliott is already paid and injury prone and not as fast as he used to be, maybe doesn't care as much, who knows? Dak is just okay. He's all right. And the offense is just okay. They got weapons all over the place. I mean, they got Gallup, they got CeeDee Lamb, they got Mr. Reliable Amari Cooper, Tony Pollard when he's healthy, Dalton Schultz is a good tight end. The Cowboys are good when everybody's right. It just seems like they're a little bit off still, even though they won that game. I don't know. I'm not sure if I believe in the Cowboys moving forward. Dodger 11 says, would you rather have Carr or Cousins? Oof, man. Geez, talk about pick your poison there. I think I'd like to see Derek Carr on a better roster. I think if he was on Minnesota, the the Vikings would be better than they are with Cousins. Even though Cousins is sneakily having a good year. I've been a Cousins believer that he can get over the hump for years now. But I don't know. I think Carr is actually slightly better just with Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. He doesn't really have much there. So if you give Derek Carr, Dalvin Cook, Jefferson, Thielen, give him those guys, Osborne, I'd like to think Carr would be slightly better. J Mike comes back in on Derek Carr. The same video that talked about the Carr set said Kirk's defense is only allowed 7 points or less one time in 119 starts. Okay. This also goes back to my point about why Tom Brady has been successful. I know he's the GOAT. I won't go any lower than that. He is the GOAT, but he's had some pretty great defenses over the years. So it does help when you go to a Super Bowl like the Patriots did against the Rams and you win 13-10, I believe, or 13-3. Okay. Your defense only gives up 10 points or less. A lot easier to win when your defense does that. So exactly. There's a lot of, it's not just on the quarterback. There's a lot that has to go right in the NFL. There's 11 starters on each side for defense and offense, and you got special teams. Look what happened to the Packers. Their special teams completely imploded this past Monday night or Sunday night against the freaking Bears. Okay, you're giving up punt return touchdowns or kickoff return touchdowns. That doesn't happen anymore. There's if you count 11, 11, 11, you got 33 people to count on. It's not like in the NBA when you got 5 guys playing both sides. It's not like that. In the NFL, you got 30, 40 dudes that play multiple positions. So a lot can go wrong in the NFL. A lot. So yes, I'm with you guys on the numbers there. I do slightly think, I don't know why. I just think Derek Carr is maybe a little better than Cousins, but they're about the same. Splitting hairs there. But great question, Dodgers 11. Kind of a cool note I saw this weekend. Rashad and Elijah Penny, the Penny brothers, both scored touchdowns this weekend. Rashad had a big game for the Seahawks with 2 touchdowns, and his brother Elijah scored for the Giants as well. They're SoCal products in LA. So Elijah got to score a touchdown against the Chargers. Thought that was pretty interesting to see 2 brothers in the NFL, and they both scored on the same weekend. Kind of funny, but pretty cool. What's going on in Buffalo? I'm not really sure. I know they've had 2 tough weeks lately. They had to play the Patriots in the snow game, and then they had to play, unfortunately, the Bucs this past weekend. Now, that game was competitive. Better weather. You knew the Bucs were going to be tough, but you also knew the Bills were going to come back after an embarrassing loss where they gave up 200 yards rushing and Mac Jones threw 3 passes the whole freaking game. So you knew Buffalo was going to give Tampa its best shot. But I'm not sure what's going on there. I know it's been a tough schedule, but Josh Allen doesn't look right. They can't run the ball at all. I mean, Devin Singletary, can we establish a little bit of a running game? That's miserable. Josh Allen's leading this team in rushing sometimes. You can't run an offense solely through your quarterback and expect him to rush all the time. Perfect example, Lamar Jackson. When you lose running backs or you can't run the ball like Buffalo, you're relying on an athletic quarterback who's going to get beat up a lot. And so you're relying on him to carry the load, rushing and passing. It's too much to ask, especially when you go against a good, high-powered offense like Tampa, who, by the way, look out for freaking Tampa. When Gronk is healthy and Leonard Fournette is all of a sudden a superstar again, wow. Tampa and Godwin is catching everything. Mike Evans, they are loaded. This is all without Antonio Brown, too. And their defense looks good again. Tampa's humming right now, and they got a bunch of all-pro players, not just Pro Bowlers, but all-pro players in Tampa. They're going to dominate, and it looks like it's going to be them and the Packers in the NFC West. I'll talk about the Rams in a second. I'm sorry, the NFC Championship. The NFC West I'll get to in a second, but I like the Packers and Tampa right now. They're the 2 most complete teams from what I've seen. So look forward to that. Buffalo went 13-3 last year and ran away with the division. And this year, Bill Belichick gave you 1 year to figure it out. 1 year to figure it out, and he's back with a rookie quarterback. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I have to give it to Belichick, who obviously is the best coach in the league, has been for 20 years. But, man, you give everybody a year to get right, and right away you're back to dominating again. It's really impressive. All of a sudden, the 49ers are hot. It's kind of weird. Jimmy G was before the season started, you could argue people are calling for his job. They want Trey Lance to start. The Niners didn't trade out of their position. They really wanted Trey Lance in the top 5. Jimmy G was an afterthought, and a lot of people didn't think he could play. All of a sudden, Jimmy G's clutch. Jimmy G is freaking clutch. Crazy game in overtime with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Niners pull off the thriller against the Bengals. Brandon Ayuk with an incredible catch and dive to get over the pylon to secure the game. It had to go down to booth review. That was a crazy game. So big props to the Niners. And it's got big wild card implications now. Since he can't take over the division, even with a beat up Baltimore team, and there's a huge logjam of spots in the playoffs in the AFC. There's a lot of 7-6, 8-5 teams, 6 and 7 teams that are still in the hunt. I wanted to look at the standings here also for the NFC. The Niners now are 7-6 behind obviously the Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. But in the playoff picture, you got the Niners in the 6th seed right now at 7-6. Washington 6-7, Minnesota 6-7, Philly 6-7, Atlanta, New Orleans, they're all 6-7. It's pretty log jammed as well for the NFC. The AFC looks similar. You got Baltimore at 8-5, the Chargers at 8-5, Indy, Buffalo, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Denver, all 7-6. That's pretty wild this late in the year. So outside of New England, Tennessee, who knows? Kansas City on the rise, and Baltimore, it's going to be a tight race. I still believe Indianapolis has a fight to put up. Buffalo's going to be right there. Cleveland, who knows? Cincinnati, who knows? There's a lot of up in the air right now. I don't know if Denver can do it with Kansas City and the Chargers ahead of them, but pretty exciting stuff, I have to say, this late into the year. Who wins the NFC North? Dodgers 11. If Lamar's out, I don't see it being Baltimore, but Cleveland doesn't impress me enough. I'd like to see Cincinnati take that leap, they totally can do it. Both of those teams above them are down. Pittsburgh's down. I don't know. Cleveland's got a lot of names on the roster. I would like to see Cincinnati freaking do it. So, like I mentioned, with Lamar hurt, for how long, who knows? Tough schedule. And think about this also. Here's Baltimore's next 4 games. They got Green Bay, Cincinnati, the Rams, and a tough game always against the Steelers. You can't tell me that's with Huntley coming in as the backup. If Lamar's not right, you got the Packers, Bengals, Rams, and Steelers. I don't trust the Ravens right now. So give me Cincinnati. How about that? They're behind the 8 ball, but I'd like to see Cincinnati get a couple wins down the stretch here and make something out of it. They're gonna have to play Green Bay as well. So, but yeah, or I'm sure. I think actually they may have already played Green Bay. I have to check that, but anyway, yeah, I'd like to see Cincinnati take the AFC North. But good question. Let's move on. The Rams had a big win last night in Arizona, and for some reason, the Cardinals can't win at home. They're 10-3, but all 3 of their losses are at home. I don't understand that, why they don't play well at home. It's very strange. The Packers, as you guys know, went in there and beat them. Cam Newton's first game back, Carolina went in there and beat them, obviously without Kyler Murray, but still. Something weird going on with Arizona, and it's usually the same stuff that happens with the Rams that happened with Arizona last night. Early turnovers, you get down. Kyler starts scrambling around. They don't have all the talent that the Rams do, and Kyler's trying to make something out of nothing. At the end of the game, some people are questioning Cliff Kingsbury's decision-making. It didn't look like they had their plays right when it came down to a Hail Mary situation. Kyler was running for his life. So I don't know if it's just Arizona can't play at home or what, but the Rams, nobody really believed in them yet. Coming back off that 3-game losing streak, beating Jacksonville in LA, the Rams were like, okay, you're supposed to beat. They beat bad teams. That's what they do. But that was an impressive win going into Arizona and beating the Cardinals. Odell Beckham has fit in nicely in LA. He has 3 touchdowns in 3 straight games. I, for one, was hating on him. I thought he was past his prime and probably done. And maybe there's a little bit of, the truth is in the middle there. But Odell seems to be getting used by Sean McVay, and Matthew Stafford's throwing to him. Now, obviously, Robert Woods got hurt, so maybe his impact is a little more without Woods. But McVay likes Odell, and he's, like I mentioned, 3 straight games with a touchdown. So if they keep using him that way, pretty impressive. So are the Rams for real again, and are the Cardinals just pretenders? I'll throw it out to you guys. What do you think? Are either of those guys legitimate Super Bowl contenders at this stage in the game? The Rams were also without a bunch of key guys, notably Jalen Ramsey, Tyler Higbee, Havenstein was out, and they still made a big statement. So even with key guys out with COVID, the Rams were able to go in Arizona and get the victory. Yeah, as far as Kyler Murray goes, I'm not. It's a little off right now. It just seems something. I don't know. They have all the talent. I mean, James Conner's a beast. So props to him for dominating this year. We'll see if the Cardinals get back on track this coming weekend. We do have Saturday night football. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there are games this Saturday night. So that should be interesting. Couple NFL games, yes, coming up this weekend. So I'll let you know who they are, too. Saturday night's going to be Raiders, Browns, and Patriots, Colts, Saturday night. That'll be fun to watch, 5:15 Pacific time. Indy's favored 2.5 against the Patriots at home in Indianapolis. So we'll see what happens there. Pat's game will be good. I agree. I think that has a lot of – if the Colts can win that game, that's huge for playoff implications there. And with a streaking Miami team, you got a lot of these teams now that are in the playoff race. Couple notes as we head out. Like I mentioned, Tiger Woods is playing again this weekend with his son, Charlie. I was reading an article. The ratings triple when Tiger plays for the PNC Championship this weekend. So this is a kind of a father-son traditional event. The number 1 women's player in the world in golf, Nelly Korda, will be playing with her father. She will be in the tournament as well with him. So Tiger and his son, Charlie, who we've seen a couple times, has a very similar swing, kind of like father, like son there. So Charlie Woods will be teeing it up with his dad this weekend at the PNC Championship. Should be fun to watch. And Tiger's back, and you never know what to expect from Tiger. He doesn't sound the same like he normally does. I'll come back and all that stuff. He doesn't sound great. So I think he knows it's close to the end. He's going to turn 46 years old at the end of this year. So it's definitely on the decline. He's had a bunch of – the problem with him is it's all self-sustained injuries, right? Either he's overworking himself. He's getting in weird car accidents. It's a lot of Tiger being Tiger. I hate to say it like that, but just weird stuff happens to him. And it's – I don't know. So – but it's always great to see Tiger. He is someone that brings eyeballs to golf. So good whenever he plays, it's a good thing. Couple random notes on the way out as well. USC, Keaton Slovis, their starting quarterback, has entered the transfer portal as a grad transfer. Things are definitely changing with Lincoln Riley. We will see who the starter is going to be. Ideally, probably either Dart, the quarterback for USC already, or this Malachi Nelson kid who reclassified and decommitted from OU to follow Lincoln Riley to USC. But Keaton Slovis, one of the best Pac-12 passers over the last few years, not saying much because it's the Pac-12, but he's been pretty good. He will enter the transfer portal. So maybe a good move for USC as they get another stud quarterback coming into that high-powered Lincoln Riley offense. If you guys have any thoughts on that, please let me know. Grandizer12 on YouTube says, contenders, every team goes through a slump. Too bad the Card slump is now with Murray going out a few games. Yeah, I do think the Cardinals are still a great team. They don't have J.J. Watt, which seemingly is now apparently a big loss. So, but yes, as long as the Cardinals aren't playing at home, they're going to be – so maybe they don't want home field advantage. I don't know. But they're going to be tough still down the stretch. I mentioned my fantasy team, not that you guys care, but I'll close the show with this. I had a chance to get highest points in one league this week, and I had a chance to get even and possibly get in the playoffs, but I was knocked out on Monday night by James Conner and Matthew Stafford. The week before, I had a chance to get highest points, got taken out by less than a point, and lost to one of the worst teams in the league. So the last 2 weeks of one of my fantasy leagues sucked for me, I'll just say that. But I did make the playoffs in 2 out of 4 leagues. I know you guys are really happy for me, so thank you for for being my emotional support for that. But tough week in fantasy for a lot of people, but happy the playoffs are starting. So if you guys are still in it, And I had, like I said, 2 of my 4 teams are still in it. So, hey, if you got a chance in the playoffs, this is a fun time of year. All the guys that you hate watching win. Hopefully they lose. And all the people on your team, hopefully they do well so you win. But yeah, exciting time for fantasy playoffs now. So should be very interesting down the stretch if your teams are in it. As usual, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. I have an episode coming out this Thursday. Big episode with Fox Sports Radio and longtime Fox Sports TV host. And he was on ESPN before, Rob Parker. Should be a big interview for me. We talk about MLB lockout, why Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame for baseball. We'll talk some Steph Curry, all that kind of stuff. So I think you guys will enjoy that episode a lot this Thursday morning on all my channels, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. You can find me there. But thanks, as always, for listening. That's going to do it for the Too Tall Sports Show. Hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you next week for another show on Colorcast and YouTube Live. This is Too Tall Sports signing out. Talk to you soon. Have a great night.